Amara started her day the same way she always did, before the sun touched the ocean outside the tall glass windows of the mansion. She liked quiet mornings. She made tea in the staff kitchen, checked the laundry, and walked through the halls to see what needed attention. The house sat on a cliff, with the sea below like a slow-moving animal. Inside, everything was clean, shiny, and carefully arranged, yet the air felt tense. The owner, Mr. Rowan, had come home from the hospital the day before after a surgery. Everyone said he would rest for a few days and then be back to his normal busy life. But Amara could feel that something was different, like a soft drum beat in the walls that no one else heard. When she brought fresh towels to his room, she moved quietly so she would not wake him. He lay on the bed, eyes closed, the morning light, soft and pale around him. His face was a little too pale, and there was a tiny shake in his hands when he shifted. Amara had seen people after surgeries before. Years ago, she helped her grandmother recover after a small procedure. She remembered what normal looked like: some tiredness, some pain, a need for patience. She also remembered the warning signs her grandmother's nurse had taught her: fever, breathing that sounded tight or shallow, confusion, skin that felt too warm around the place where the surgery happened. Amara stood near the door and listened for his breathing. It sounded a bit fast, like a person who had just climbed a few stairs. She looked at the small digital thermometer on the bedside table and wondered if anyone had used it this morning. A private nurse came in with a soft smile and a folder. "Morning check," she said, and walked to the bed. Amara stepped back because she respected the nurse's space. The nurse pressed a hand to Mr. Rowan's forehead, glanced at the monitor, and then checked the IV line. "All fine," she said gently, mostly to herself. "He needs rest." Amara nodded and left the room, but her heart did not relax. She went to the laundry room and folded sheets, yet her thoughts stayed upstairs. When she carried a basket past the study, she saw the personal assistant, a young man in a pressed suit, typing quickly at his laptop. "How is he?" she asked in a careful voice. The assistant did not look up. "Normal post-surgery stuff," he answered. "The doctor signed off. He'll be back on calls next week." His tone was polite, but closing the door at the same time. At mid-morning, Amara returned to the room with fresh water and a light soup the chef had prepared. Mr. Rowan was awake now. He gave her a small smile, as if he was trying to be brave for a guest. "Good morning, sir," she said softly. "Would you like some soup?" He lifted his hand as if it weighed a lot and shook his head. "Later," he whispered. She set the tray down, picked up the folded throw blanket from the chair, and noticed the way he shivered even with his thick duvet. The window was closed. The room was not cold. Still, he seemed cold from inside. Amara moved closer to straighten the blanket, and in that moment, she felt a gentle heat near his chest and shoulder, the area where the surgery bandage was hidden under his soft shirt. Not hot like a burn, but warmer than the skin on his hand. She stepped back and tried to arrange her face so it only showed calm. Outside in the hall, the head butler was checking a delivery list. He was a kind man who liked order and rules. Amara waited until he finished signing and then spoke carefully. "Sir, may I ask, did the nurse check his temperature this morning?" He glanced up, friendly but hurried. "Of course," he said. "Everything is as expected." He turned a page. "You know how these recoveries are: rest, water, patience." He gave her a small smile and returned to the list. She thanked him and walked away, but the small drumbeat in her chest grew a little louder. Around noon, the private nurse changed. A new nurse came with the afternoon shift. She had a bright voice and a quick step. Amara brought fresh linens and watched from the doorway as the nurse looked at the monitor and wrote something in the chart. Mr. Rowan's eyes had a tired glaze, the kind that comes from pain medicine or from a deep tiredness inside the body. The nurse finished her note and told the assistant that the patient would sleep. As people moved around the room, assistant, nurse, a junior aide who carried a small box of supplies, Amara noticed a sealed paper bag sitting in the corner near a chair. It had a clinic label and a printed sticker with times on it. No one seemed to pick it up. She did not touch it. She simply noted its presence, like a photo in her mind. When the room finally quieted, Amara went to her small closet near the staff lounge and took out a simple notepad. She did not plan to make a big deal. She only wanted a clear memory of small things. She wrote the time, 12:20 p.m. She wrote, did not eat soup, shivered under blanket, warm skin near bandage, looks more tired than morning. She held the pen and thought of her grandmother. She remembered a day when her grandmother had seemed fine, then by evening had felt too warm and confused. That day had taught Amara that quiet signs can grow quickly if people do not pay attention. In the afternoon, the mansion stayed busy. Gardeners trimmed bushes outside. The chef tried a new recipe and asked Amara to taste a slice of warm bread. She smiled and said it was very good. Still, every 20 minutes her mind returned upstairs. She took a fresh pitcher of water to the room and set it on the table. "Would you like to sit up a little?" she asked in a careful tone. Mr. Rowan opened his eyes, and there was a soft cloud in them. "Maybe later," he said. His voice sounded slow and a little heavy. She made a note in her head but said nothing. She checked the tray. The soup was untouched. At 3 o'clock, the personal assistant told the staff that a short meeting would happen at 5 to prepare for Mr. Rowan's schedule next week. The assistant's voice was bright with confidence. "We will keep it calm and simple," he said. "He just needs time." Amara listened, but kept thinking about the quiet warmth near Mr. Rowan's bandage and the way he shivered under his blanket in a room that was not cold. She wondered if anyone had taken his temperature again since morning. She wondered if the nurse had read any small changes as normal because the day was busy and the notes were already done. Later, when she went back to the room to tidy up, she saw that his skin had a slight shine of sweat on his forehead. It was not a lot, just a small sign. He took a breath that sounded a little shallow, and then another one that tried to go deeper but ended early. Amara stood still and counted silently, the way she had been taught. She listened to the rhythm. She did not want to disturb him, but she reached for a clean cloth, dampened it in cool water, and touched it lightly to his forehead. He did not wake. For a moment, she considered asking the nurse to take his temperature again. She stepped into the hallway and found the nurse at a small desk near the door, finishing a form. "Excuse me?" Amara said with respect. "He seems warm. Would you like me to bring the thermometer?" The nurse smiled without looking up. "Thank you. We're all set," she said. "Post-surgery warmth is common. He needs rest." Amara nodded and moved away, but now the drumbeat in her chest was steady. She did not feel angry. She did not feel superior. She only felt a clear duty to watch carefully. This was someone's life, and sometimes small signs arrive quietly before they become loud. She did not want to be dramatic. She wanted to be right, and she wanted to be kind. As the sun lowered, the sea turned from bright silver to a deeper blue. The house grew softer and quieter. The meeting at 5 ran long in the study, and the staff discussed meals, deliveries, schedules, and small plans. For next week, Amara listened from the doorway and kept an ear tuned to the hallway that led to Mr. Rowan's room. When the meeting ended, she returned upstairs with a cup of warm water and a gentle voice. "Sir, would you like to try a few sips?" He opened his eyes and looked at her as if she were far away. What time is it?" he asked. "Just after 6, she said. He nodded, closed his eyes again, and whispered, "Maybe later." She did not push him. She set the cup down and watched the slow rise and fall of his chest. Dinner came and went. The chef left a light tray, broth, soft bread, a little fruit. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and clean sheets. The private nurse finished her shift and handed the folder to the next. They spoke quietly in the hall, and then the new nurse took a quick look and said, "Okay, we'll keep him sleeping." The assistant left for the night with a quick wave to the staff and a list of tasks for tomorrow. "Text me if anything unusual happens," he said. The word unusual stayed with Amara. What counts as unusual, she wondered, when small signs are already here? When the house settled for the night, Amara walked down to the beach path for a few minutes of fresh air. The sea wind cooled her skin and cleared her head. She looked at the stars beginning to show above the water. She thought of her grandmother again and of the calm nurse's voice from years ago. If you are not sure, watch. If you are still not sure, write things down. Small notes can save time later. She returned to the house and picked up her notepad. She wrote the time, 8:10 p.m. She wrote, still warm, soft sweat on forehead, no dinner, breathing sometimes shallow, said maybe later, 3 times today. At 9, she passed by the room, again, and heard a sound that made her stop. It was not a loud sound. It was like a soft, uneven sigh. She stood with her back to the wall so she could listen without making him feel watched. She counted the seconds between breaths. 1, 2, 3 did not like. Amara did not sleep much that night. But she kept her mind steady. She moved through the house in soft steps, like a careful song that never breaks. Each time her small alarm rang, she walked past Mr. Rowan's door, listened to his breathing, and wrote a few notes. Sometimes his breath came evenly. Sometimes there was a small pause that made her count longer. She did not panic. She only watched, listened, and wrote. When the sky changed from black to gray, she made tea and stood for a moment at the kitchen window, letting the warm steam touch her face. The sea outside looked flat and quiet, but she knew the deep water had its own secret movements. She felt that hidden current inside the house, too. Just after sunrise, the night nurse handed the folder to the day nurse. The change of shift brought a different energy. Clean uniforms, fresh pens, a quick review of checklists. Amara greeted them politely. "Good morning," she said, with a calm smile. The day nurse smiled back, busy and kind, and went into Mr. Rowan's room for a short check. Amara waited near the doorway, not too close, not too far. She heard the soft beeps of a small device, then the rustle of paper. In a few minutes, the nurse came out and said to the head butler, "He's sleeping. Keep things quiet. He'll be more alert later." Amara nodded. She went back to the staff kitchen and opened her notepad. On the first page, she drew a simple table, time, temperature if measured, breathing notes, food and water, alertness. She did not have a thermometer in her hand, but she hoped someone would use the one by the bed and read a number she could write. For now, she wrote what she could. 6:30 a.m., sleeping, breathing sometimes shallow, skin felt warm last night. She kept her writing clear and small, each letter easy to read. On the counter nearby, a folded pack of papers caught her eye. It was the discharge instructions from the hospital, the kind the hospital gives when a patient goes home. She picked it up with care, making sure her hands were clean and dry. The page was simple, printed in patient-friendly words. It said to watch for fever above a certain number. It said to watch for redness and warmth around the incision. It said to watch for confusion, new pain, or any shortness of breath. It also said, "Call your doctor right away if any of these signs appear." Someone had underlined a few lines with a thin pen. Amara read those lines twice, then a third time. She placed the papers back exactly where she found them. At 8, she brought a fresh pitcher of water and a small cup to the room. Mr. Rowan was awake but quiet. His eyes looked a little dull, like he was traveling through a fog. "Good morning, sir," she said softly. "Would you like a sip of water?" He blinked at her and tried to sit up, then settled back with a small sigh. "Maybe later," he said, the same words as last night, but slower. She did not push. She placed the cup where he could reach it and adjusted the pillow near his shoulders. Careful not to disturb anything near the bandage, she told herself a basic truth. To help someone breathe easier, sitting up a little can be gentle and good. But she also respected limits and roles. She could not change his position without asking. When she stepped into the hallway, she met a junior aide who was carrying a tray of fresh supplies. "Excuse me," Amara said in a respectful tone. "If he is able, sitting up a little might help his breathing. May I assist?" The aide shook her head quickly, eyes on the tray. "Please don't interfere," she said. "The nurse will decide." The words were not cruel. They were just firm and fast, like a door closing on a draft. Amara nodded. "Thank you," she said. She would not argue. She would keep watching. At mid-morning, the personal assistant appeared, fresh from the gym, in neat clothes and with a confident step. He glanced at his phone and then at the nurse. "What's the status?" he asked. The nurse said, "He's resting. We'll try fluids and soup later." The assistant smiled, relieved. "Good," he said. "Keep it calm. We have a light week. He'll be back on calls next week anyway." He turned to Amara. "Please make sure the house stays quiet." "No, smells from the kitchen near his room." Amara agreed. "Of course," she said, and went to speak with the chef about keeping strong odors away from the second-floor hallway. These were simple tasks, and she did them with care. Back in the room, she noticed something small but clear. Mr. Rowan's lips looked dry again, and his forehead had a light sheen. "Sir," she whispered, "may I help you with a little water?" He nodded this time, almost like a child who wants to be polite. She lifted the cup and helped him drink a few small sips. He swallowed slowly, then took another. "Thank you," he whispered. His voice sounded a bit thin but grateful. She smiled, warm but calm, and set the cup down. She wrote a note in her head. 9:40 a.m., a few sips of water. By late morning, his thoughts seemed to drift. "What time is the flight?" he asked the empty air. "Is the driver waiting?" Amara realized these were not today's plans. They were echoes from his normal life. "It's Tuesday, sir," she said gently, even though she knew it was Wednesday. She wanted to see if he noticed. He closed his eyes and said, "Yes, Tuesday." Then he dozed off again. She felt a small worry, like a thread pulling across her chest. Confusion can come from medicine. Confusion can also come from fever. She wanted a number. She wanted someone to say, "His temperature is X." A number can turn a feeling into a clear message. She went to the nurse's small station and spoke softly. "He seems confused," she said. "Would you like me to bring the thermometer?" The nurse looked up, busy but courteous. "Thank you," she said. "We checked earlier. It was slightly elevated but not concerning. He needs rest, fluids, and time." Amara nodded again. She understood that not every change is an emergency. She also understood that small changes can grow. This was not a moment to argue. This was a moment to gather facts and ask clear questions. At lunch, the chef delivered a light broth, soft bread, and a spoon of mashed potatoes. The room smelled gentle and clean. Amara helped set the tray down and asked, "Would you like a taste?" Mr. Rowan gave her a tired smile but turned his face away. "Later," he said, the words slow and thin. She waited 2 minutes, then asked again very softly, "Just 1 spoon?" He shook his head. His cheeks had a faint color now, but not the kind from a good walk in the sun. It was a warmth that did not match the cool room. She looked at the bedside table. The digital thermometer sat there, waiting. She didn't touch it, but she felt its silent suggestion. In the early afternoon, the personal assistant held a short huddle with the staff about the next week's expectations. "We're in control," he said with bright confidence. "No stress, no noise, no strong smells, and limited visitors." Amara heard those words and agreed with most of them. Quiet could help. Calm could help. And yet, another truth sat next. To these, if a person meets the warning signs written on a discharge paper, fever, redness, confusion, silence is not enough. Silence can be beautiful. But sometimes, silence is a missed chance. After the huddle, she walked back to the staff kitchen and opened her notepad again. She wrote clearly, 1:15 p.m., still no food, a few sips of water, confusion about day, warm skin. She then added a small star next to the line about confusion. She remembered her grandmother's nurse saying, "If the mind changes, slower speech, wrong dates, more sleep than usual, write it down and tell someone." She planned her next step. She would call the nurse coordinator. She would be calm and organized. She would read from the discharge paper, not her feelings. She picked up the kitchen phone, dialed the number, and waited. The coordinator answered with a fast, professional tone. Amara spoke clearly. "Hello, my name is Amara. I help in Mr. Rowan's household. He came home after surgery yesterday. He seems warm, he is often sleepy, he is confused about the day, and he has not eaten. He took small sips of water. The discharge paper says, to call if fever, redness, or confusion increase. I wanted to check what we should do." The coordinator paused, asked for the patient's full name and surgery date, then said, "He's on strong medication. Some confusion is common. Monitor him. If the temperature goes high, let us know." The voice was not unkind, but it had the stretch of a person looking at a long list with many names. "Thank you," Amara said. "Could we confirm the temperature now?" There was a small silence then. "The nurse on site can handle that. Keep him resting. He'll be fine." The call ended. Amara placed the phone down slowly, like setting a cup on a table that could tip. She stood still for a moment, breathing deeply. She did not want to push anyone. She only wanted to be sure. She walked to the hallway again and met a junior aide, who was heading toward the room. "He might do better sitting up a little," Amara said, gentle and respectful. "Only a little. It could help his breathing." The aide gave her a brief look, sympathetic but firm. "Please let the nurse decide," she said again, then knocked lightly and entered the room. Amara waited outside, hands folded, listening, to small sounds, the rustle of sheets, the whisper of feet on carpet, the click of a pen. She did not hear the beep of the thermometer. She wished she did. By late afternoon, the sun began to tilt toward the sea, and the light in the room turned soft. Mr. Rowan's breathing changed again. It was not dramatic. It was the kind of change you feel when you sit near a sleeping child and notice the breath go shallow and then steady, then shallow again. He opened his eyes and looked at Amara as if she were at the far end of a long hallway. "Did we sign the papers?" Before dawn, the house felt like a held breath. The windows were dark squares, the sea a steady hush below the cliff, and the hallways soft with shadows. Amara moved quietly with her small notepad in her apron pocket. She paused by Mr. Rowan's door and listened. His breathing came, then paused, then came again like a tired swimmer trying to reach the next line of the pool. She stood still for a few seconds, counted, and wrote a short note. 4:55 a.m., breathing uneven, skin warm last night, still sleepy. She went to the staff kitchen to make tea and warm a small cloth. She liked simple things that brought comfort without making noise. When she opened the drawer to look for a clean spoon, she noticed a small paper bag tucked behind a stack of napkins. The bag had a clinic label and a neat printed sticker with dosing times. It also had Mr. Rowan's name and the word "Update" in tiny letters. The bag was sealed, as if it had been delivered and set aside. Amara did not open it. She only read what was plain on the sticker. New schedule. Start upon receipt. She felt a small pull in her chest. If this was a change. To his medicine, why was it sitting here? She carried the bag to the head butler's desk because he handled deliveries and logs. His desk lamp made a little circle of light on the dark wood. She set the bag down, wrote the time on a sticky note, 5:05 a.m., and added, "Found. In staff kitchen drawer, label says, start upon receipt." She did not accuse anyone. She did not try to be the hero. She only placed the bag where it belonged and made a clear note. Then she walked upstairs with her tea and the warm cloth. In the bedroom, the air felt still. Mr. Rowan lay on his back, his face soft with sleep. A small line of sweat glowed at his temple. Amara washed her hands for a slow 20 seconds, then gently dabbed his forehead with the warm cloth. He stirred, opened his eyes a little, and gave her the kind of half-smile people give when they wake up unsure of the time. "Good morning, sir," she said in a voice that sounded like a calm room. "It's early. Would you like a few sips of water?" He blinked and whispered, "Maybe." The word came out slow and a little thick, as if his mouth needed a moment to remember how words work. Amara set the cup where he could reach and lifted the head of the bed a tiny bit using the remote, only a few degrees, just enough to help air move easier. She had asked this before and been told to let the nurse decide. But the nurse was not in the room right now, and the lift was gentle and small, like raising a pillow by hand. She watched his face for any sign of pain. None came. He took a small breath that sounded a little smoother. She made another note in her head. 5:20 a.m. Head of bed slightly raised, breathing softer. His voice bothered her, not because of the sound, but because of the change. Yesterday afternoon, he had said, "Thank you," in a clear, steady way when she brought water. Today, the word "maybe" sounded slow and foggy. She took her phone and, after asking softly, "Sir, may I record a quick note?" recorded 10 seconds while he said his name and the date. She knew it was unusual, but she wanted a clear record to compare. Then she played a short message he had left on the kitchen speaker the day before, thanking the staff for the quiet house. The difference was real. Yesterday's voice had been normal. Today's voice had a heavy coat over it. She stepped into the hallway and found the day nurse arriving early with a fresh bag and a firm step. "Good morning," Amara said. "He seems warm and a bit more confused today, and I found a sealed clinic bag downstairs with a label that said, 'Start upon receipt.' It's on the butler's desk now." The nurse paused, surprised to hear about the bag, then nodded. "I'll look," she said. "Thank you." The tone was polite but focused, like someone adding a new line to a busy list. Back in the room, Amara helped Mr. Rowan take 2 small sips of water, waiting in between. She did not rush him. She kept his lips moist with a clean sponge stick. She watched his chest. She listened. Then she looked at the bedside table and the small digital thermometer sitting there like a quiet witness. She did not use it without being asked, but she wanted a number. A number could turn feelings into a sentence that others must hear. At 6:15, the head butler came to the doorway holding the paper bag. "Courier dropped this last evening," he said, looking a little disappointed with himself. "It seems it was placed in the wrong drawer during the dinner rush. The label suggests a change in his medicine." His eyes met Amara's, and she saw that he felt the weight of this small mistake. "We'll address it with the nurse at once," he added. She nodded kindly. Thank you for checking, she said. She did not add any extra words. It was not the time for blame. It was time for action. The nurse stepped in with the folder and the bag, read the label, and made a note. I'll confirm with the clinic, she said. Amara stood by the window, quiet, while the nurse examined the bandage area without moving it too much. Some warmth, the nurse murmured. Then took the thermometer and measured. She frowned just a little and wrote the number down. She did not say it out loud. Amara wished she had. A number shared is a step toward a plan. When the nurse left to call the clinic, Amara moved closer to the bed. It's early morning, sir, she said softly. Your home is very quiet. The sea is calm today. He opened his eyes and looked toward the window. Meeting at 9, he asked, as if a part of his mind was still in another day. No meeting today, she answered. Just rest. He closed his eyes again and whispered, Good. Amara took her notepad out and wrote, The time, 6:40 a.m. Then she wrote, New medicine bag found, label said start upon receipt, nurse checking, fever reading taken. She underlined fever reading because she knew that word mattered. She had seen enough hospital papers to know that a fever after surgery needs attention. She walked to the staff kitchen, took a deep breath, and made a choice. She would call the surgeon's office emergency line herself. She would be calm, polite, and precise. She would read the words from the discharge paper because those words were not emotional. They were instructions. She dialed, gave Mr. Rowan's full name and surgery date, and spoke clearly. He has been warm since last night. He is confused about the day. His speech is slower. He is not eating, and his breathing is sometimes shallow. A new medicine bag arrived yesterday with a label to start immediately, but it was not logged until this morning. We need guidance. The assistant said, One moment, please, and put her on hold. A soft song with no words filled her ear. Amara stared at the clock on the wall. The second hand moved like a slow train passing a small station. She stood with the phone pressed to her ear for a long minute. Then 2. She pictured Mr. Rowan upstairs, his breathing like shallow waves. She pictured the sealed bag sitting on the desk last night, missed by tired eyes in a busy house. She remembered the discharge sheet, fever, redness, confusion, shortness of breath. Call the doctor if these signs appear. She was doing what the paper said. Still, the hold music stretched. Amara took the phone away from her ear and ended the call. Then she dialed the hospital's 24/7 triage number printed at the bottom of the discharge sheet. A human voice answered quickly. Triage nurse, the voice said. Amara gave the same clear summary. Warm skin since last night, confusion, slower speech today, little water, almost no food, shallow breathing at times, thermometer was used this morning, the number was written down by the nurse. The triage nurse asked, Do you know the temperature? Amara said, I do not have the number, but I can ask right now. Please do, the triage nurse said. I'll hold. Amara walked fast but quietly down the hall to the nurse's small station. May I ask, she said, what the reading was? The nurse looked up, a little surprised to be asked, then answered without annoyance. It was high, she said, and then gave the number. It was not a small number. It was the kind of number that makes people stop what they are doing. Amara thanked her and walked back to the phone. The temperature is high, she told the triage nurse, repeating the number. He is also more confused than yesterday. The triage nurse did not speak for a heartbeat. Then she said with steady care, With that temperature, the mental changes, and the breathing pattern you describe, he needs to be seen now. Please call an ambulance. Keep him comfortable, help him sit up slightly, and do not give any new medicines unless a clinician is present. If he gets more sleepy, call again while you wait. Amara felt the words land like small stones that build a safe path. There was no drama in the triage nurse's tone, only a clear direction. "Yes," Amara said. "I understand." She thanked the nurse and ended the call. For a second, she stood still and listened to the house. She could hear the sea below the windows. She could hear a cart rolling over tiles far away. She could hear her own breath. She walked to Mr. Rowan's room. "Sir," she said softly, "I'm going to help you sit up a little more. It will help your breathing." She pressed the bed's remote again, lifting the head by another gentle step. "Is that okay?" He nodded, just a little. His eyes opened and closed as if they were heavy with sand. She placed a fresh, clean pillow behind his shoulders to make the position soft. She took another small cloth, dampened it, and touched it to his lips to keep them from feeling dry. She did not rush. She kept her movements quiet and sure. Then she glanced at the door and at the small house phone on the wall. She knew the rules. Big decisions often went through the personal assistant or the chief of S. The emergency operator's voice was calm, like a lighthouse voice in fog. Amara held the phone to her ear and spoke in clear, steady sentences. She gave Mr. Rowan's name, the surgery date, the high temperature number, the confusion, the shallow, breathing, and the small changes over the last 24 hours. The operator asked a few quick questions, then said, "Help him sit up slightly. Keep him warm but not hot. Do not give food. If he is able, small sips of water only. We are sending an ambulance. Keep this line open if anything changes." "Thank you," Amara said. She placed the phone on speaker and set it on the bedside table so she could use both hands. "Sir," she whispered, "help is coming now." Mr. Rowan's eyes opened, halfway. He looked at her as if he wanted to say a longer sentence, but could only give one small word. "Okay," he breathed, and the word floated like a leaf on water. The head butler stood in the doorway, worry lining his face. "I have notified the personal assistant and the chief of staff," he said softly. "The private nurse is calling the clinic again." Amara nodded. "Thank you," she answered. She took a clean cloth, dampened it, and touched it to Mr. Rowan's lips. She checked the position of the pillow behind his shoulders and lifted the head of the bed one more gentle notch. She watched his chest rise and fall. She counted. The spaces between breaths were still uneven, but his neck and shoulders looked a little more relaxed with the new angle. In the hall, footsteps came fast. The chief of staff arrived, neat and serious, with a tablet in hand. "We need to coordinate," he said, his voice low but tense. "What did the clinic say?" The nurse answered from the small station. "We're awaiting a call back about the medicine change. His temperature is high." The chief of staff pressed his lips together. "We do not want noise," he said. "We do not want a scene." Amara kept her eyes on Mr. Rowan and spoke gently, as if the whole house could hear her tone. "The triage nurse told me to call an ambulance now," she said. "I have given them the signs and the temperature." The chief of staff looked at her, then at the head butler, then at the nurse. Something in his face softened, not in defeat, but in understanding. "All right," he said finally. "Let's cooperate with the paramedics." The siren did not blare when the ambulance pulled up. It arrived in quiet mode, like help that knows how to enter a calm house. 2 paramedics came in with a careful rush. Firm steps, clear eyes, and simple questions. "Where's the patient?" the first asked. Amara guided them down the hall. In the room, they moved like a practiced team. One checked the pulse with gentle fingers. The other took a temperature reading and placed a small clip on Mr. Rowan's finger. A cuff wrapped around his arm with a soft hiss. Numbers began to appear on a small monitor. "High fever," one paramedic said, reading the screen. "Pulse fast." The other looked at Amara. "Has he eaten or drunk today?" Only small sips of water, she said. He is confused about the day. His speech became slower this morning. A new medicine bag arrived yesterday but was not logged until this morning. She pointed to the labeled paper bag on the dresser. The paramedic nodded and asked for any allergies, recent changes, and the name of the surgeon. Amara held up the discharge paper and read the answers clearly. The paramedic's eyes showed respect. "Thank you," he said. "These notes help a lot." They prepared a soft transfer. The sheet was folded, the straps laid out, the stretcher set to the right height. Their hands were gentle, and their voices steady. "We'll lift together on 3, one said. "Sir, we're going to help you onto this stretcher. You're going to the hospital so they can help you breathe easier and bring the fever down." Mr. Rowan's eyes fluttered. He gave a small nod. On 3, they slid him onto the stretcher as if moving a sleeping bird's wing. No hurry, no sharp motion. The straps clicked, not in a harsh way, but like a seatbelt in a car before. A safe drive. The chief of staff stepped forward. "I'll follow by car," he said. "Which hospital?" The paramedic gave the name. The private nurse gathered the folder and the medicine bag. "I'll ride with him," she offered. The paramedic looked to Amara. "Are you a family member? Or primary caregiver?" Amara shook her head. "I am household staff," she said simply. The paramedic nodded. "Then the nurse can ride." He turned to Amara again. "Your notes. Could we take a photo? Times, signs, that kind of detail can speed things up in triage." Amara opened her notepad, and the paramedic snapped 2. Quick pictures with a secure device. They rolled the stretcher down the hall. The house, usually a stage for quiet luxury, became a path of practical kindness. A gardener opened a door. The head butler held the elevator. The chef stood back with a hand on his chest, whispering a small hope. In the foyer, the morning light was soft and gold. Outside, the sea wind felt clean, as if the world itself wanted fresh air for a tired body. In the ambulance, the nurse sat near the head of the stretcher, and a paramedic adjusted a clear mask over Mr. Rowan's nose and mouth. "This is oxygen," he said gently. "It will help." He checked the monitor again. "We're moving now," the driver called. The vehicle rolled forward like a careful boat on calm water. Amara stood in the driveway as the ambulance pulled away. She pressed her hands together and let out a slow breath. The head butler stood beside her. "You did the right thing," he said in a quiet voice that came from the center of his chest. "Thank you." She nodded, grateful for his words, but her heart still held a small worry. Doing the right thing sometimes shakes the order of a place. She did not want trouble. She wanted health and calm. Inside, the chief of staff organized quick tasks. "Prepare a small overnight bag," he told the junior aide. "Bring chargers, a clean robe, and glasses." He turned to Amara. "Please rest," he said, though his tone still carried tension. "We may need you later." Amara thanked him and walked to the staff lounge. She washed her hands, cleaned the small teacup she had used earlier, and sat for a moment with her notepad open. She wrote the time. 9:12 a.m., ambulance departed, she added. "Oxygen given. Paramedics took photos of notes. Nurse riding. With patient." She closed the notepad and pressed it flat with her palm, like closing the cover on a chapter. At the hospital, the work moved fast. The triage nurse who had spoken with Amara earlier met the stretcher with clear eyes. "This is the patient?" she asked. The paramedic gave a clean, short report. High fever, fast pulse, changes in speech, shallow breathing at times, recent surgery, medicine update delayed. The triage nurse nodded and guided them to a room where a small team was ready. Monitors, lit up with lines and numbers. A phlebotomist took a blood sample with practiced hands. A clinician listened to breath sounds and pressed gently near the bandage, careful not to disturb it. Another began an IV line. Words like infection markers, cultures, and broad-spectrum antibiotics moved through the room, not loud, not scary, just tools being named. The nurse placed a hand on Amara's notes, which the paramedic had printed from the photo. "This timeline matters," she said, and she placed the pages at the top of the chart. "Thank you to whoever kept this," the private nurse said. Amara did, and the triage nurse looked up, as if seeing Amara through the paper. "Please tell her it helped us act faster." Back at the mansion, the hours felt long and light at the same time. The house was quiet without its center of activity. The personal assistant returned from a rushed errand and moved through the rooms with the energy of someone looking for control. He stopped at the staff lounge doorway. "What did you tell the triage nurse?" he asked Amara, not accusing, just needing order. "Facts from the discharge," she said gently. "Fever, confusion, breathing changes, and the number from this morning." He nodded, absorbing the simple lines of her answer. "Thank you," he said, and something in his voice changed. Less brightness, more depth. 2 hours later, the phone rang for the head butler. He listened, asked 2 short questions, then covered the mouthpiece and looked at Amara. "The hospital says it was good timing," he said. "They are treating him for a post-surgery infection. He is responding to the first steps. They will keep him for close watching." Amara closed her eyes for a moment, letting relief move through her like warm air. "Thank you for telling me," she said. The chief of staff returned in the afternoon, jacket over his arm, hair a little out of place. He gathered the team in the kitchen for a quick update. "Mr. Rowan is stable," he said, and the room let out a soft, collective breath. "The hospital believes the rapid response helped. They will continue tests. They will call with further updates." He looked around at the staff, gardeners, chef, drivers, cleaners, and then his gaze paused on Amara. "Thank you for your attention," he said. "The household will follow a new rule once we speak with the clinic. If signs cross the thresholds on a discharge paper, anyone may call for emergency help. No permission needed." A small, surprised quiet filled the room, the kind that follows a simple truth finally spoken. The head butler nodded, once, firmly. The chef wiped his hands on a towel and nodded too, with eyes that looked grateful. The personal assistant said softly, "Agreed." The junior aides looked at Amara with a new kind of respect that is, both bright and humble. The day stretched toward evening. Amara did the kind of work that brings order back to a place, folding soft towels, setting a clean glass by the bed that was empty now, clearing a tray that had held untouched soup, and opening a window for 10 minutes. Morning came with soft light on the kitchen tiles and the sound of the sea like quiet breathing below the cliff. Amara woke after a short, honest sleep. She felt the kind of tired that is clean, not heavy. Tired from doing the right work. She washed her hands, tied her hair back, and checked that her notepad and a simple pen were in her apron pocket. The head butler met her near the back door with a small, grateful smile. "The hospital said we can visit at 10, he told her. "Mr. Rowan asked for you by name." Amara nodded, gently surprised, and said, "Thank you." The drive to the hospital felt shorter than usual. Maybe it was the clear sky. Maybe it was the sense that the day knew where it was going. The chief of staff rode in the front seat, quiet for once. In the back, Amara looked at the small overnight bag they had packed yesterday. A clean robe, slippers, a phone charger, a pair of glasses, and a book with large, easy print. It was not much, but it was comfort in a bag, and comfort matters when a person is healing. She folded the robe one more time and smoothed it with her hand. Inside the hospital, the air had a calm rhythm. Nurses moved with steady steps. Voices were low and kind. The triage nurse from yesterday passed by and gave Amara a small wave. "Good timing," she said softly, and kept walking. A clerk pointed them to a room with a window that looked over a tree with bright leaves. The nurse at the door said, "He's doing better. Temperature is down. He's more alert today." Then she turned to Amara. "You kept those notes?" Amara nodded. "Yes." The nurse's eyes were warm. "They helped." Mr. Rowan looked different already. He was still pale, and his hair lay softly against the pillow, but his eyes were clear in a way they hadn't been the day before. He smiled when he saw the head butler and the chief of staff. Then he looked to Amara and lifted his hand a little, a quiet hello that meant more than a word. "Good morning," she said, and her voice carried a calm that filled the room like light. "We brought your robe and glasses." He nodded, then spoke slowly but clearly. "Thank you for seeing what I could not." The doctor arrived and explained in simple terms. "You had a post-surgery infection," she said. "Your body was working hard to fight it. The confusion and fever were warning signs. We started strong medicine through your IV and watched you closely. The quick call helped us begin treatment sooner." She turned to the chief of staff and added, "You will go home with clear instructions. Please follow them exactly, and make sure medicine changes are started when they arrive." No one in the room argued or made excuses. The truth stood on its own feet. When the doctor left, Mr. Rowan asked for a few sips of water. Amara held the cup and watched to be sure he swallowed well. He did. He even ate 2 small spoonfuls of soft fruit, then leaned back, tired but comfortable. "You were steady," he said to her after a minute. "Not loud, not afraid, just steady." She answered in her simple way. "I wrote what I saw. The paper said to call if the signs appeared. They appeared." He smiled, and his smile looked like someone lighting a lamp in the evening. Nothing dramatic, just exactly right. The chief of staff spoke next, voice respectful. "We have learned," he said. "We will change the household rule. If a discharge paper says to call when certain signs appear, anyone may call. No permission needed." He turned to Amara. "Your calm was a kind of leadership." She looked down for a second, then back up. "We all care," she said. "We just needed a path." Her words were plain and true, and they landed softly in the room. The nurse helped Mr. Rowan sit up a little more and showed him a breathing tool that helps the lungs open. "Take a slow breath and try to raise the marker," she said. "A few times an hour." He tried, and the marker climbed, then dropped. "Again," Amara encouraged gently. He tried twice more and did a little better. It was a small victory, but small victories add up. They are the coins that pay the bill of recovery. Back at the mansion that afternoon, the head butler gathered the staff. The chef, gardeners, drivers, cleaners, and junior aides stood around the table with the neat line of pens and a bright bowl of lemons in the center. The chief of staff read a short new policy. "1," he said, "any staff member who notices warning signs that match a doctor's list may call the clinic or ambulance. 2, medicine deliveries will be logged immediately on a new shelf by the staff kitchen door, with a name, date, and time. 3, basic health training will be provided. To all staff, how to take a temperature, how to note breathing, how to help a person sit up safely. 4, whoever keeps notes will place them in a simple chart so information can be shared quickly." The personal assistant added something simple and important. "We will use one clear word when we need help," he said. "We will say, thresholds. If someone says, thresholds are met, we act. No debate. That means a number is high or a sign is present and written on the paper. It removes guesswork." He looked at Amara and nodded. "Thank you for teaching us that." For the next 2 days, Amara visited the hospital in the mornings. She took the breathing tool from the bedside table and encouraged steady practice. She brought a small radio that played soft instrumental music and placed it low so it would not disturb anyone nearby. She noticed the smallest signs. His hands warmed, his voice lost the heavy coat. He laughed once at a quiet joke the nurse made about hospital socks, and then he slept more naturally. The doctor said, "He is trending well." The word trending sounded like a line on a graph, but in the room it felt like a curtain lifting. On the third morning, the doctor said he could go home the next day if the numbers kept moving in the right direction. The household began to prepare. The head butler ordered new thermometers and labeled them by room. The junior aides assembled a simple aftercare kit for the bedside: thermometer, small notebook, pen, lip balm, hand sanitizer, and a card that listed emergency numbers, the clinic number, and the word thresholds in bold letters. The chef planned gentle meals with mild flavors and clear broths. The drivers checked the car for a smooth ride and put a small pillow in the seatbelt spot to make it more comfortable. The chief of staff asked Amara to meet him in the study. The room smelled like paper and light polish. Sun fell across the floor in clean lines. He closed the door gently and spoke in a kind voice that was new for him. "We want to create a new role," he said. "Household care coordinator. Someone who understands the rhythm of the house and also knows how to read discharge instructions, keep simple health notes, and make sure care tools are in place. We all believe you would be excellent at this. The role comes with better pay, set hours, and training that we will fund." He paused. "Would you consider it?" Amara listened with her hands folded and her heart steady. She did not run to the answer. She stood in the room and let the words settle, like flour falling gently into a bowl. She thought about the simple notepad that had helped start the right steps. She thought about the new shelf with labels and a log. She thought about the word thresholds and how a single clear word can quiet confusion. She thought about the staff standing in the kitchen, eager to learn but also worried about getting it wrong. Then she spoke. "Yes," she said. "I will do it. And I would like all of us to learn together. No one should be afraid to speak when signs appear." The chief of staff smiled in a way that made him look younger. "Agreed," he said. "We will bring in a nurse educator next week to teach us basic skills." He held out a simple folder. Inside was a job description, a schedule with balanced hours, and a salary number that made Amara blink. Not because it was flashy, but because it expressed respect. Respect is a salary turned into a sentence. "We see your worth. Mr. Rowan." Came home just before noon on a bright day. The sea was a calm, friendly blue. The staff stood back to give space while the nurse helped him into his room. The head of the bed was already raised to a gentle angle. The aftercare kit was on the table. The new thermometer lay in its case, clean and ready. The word card, with thresholds, sat where anyone could find it. Amara stood near the window and waited until the nurse finished settling him. Then she stepped forward and set the radio to a soft station. "Welcome home," she said. He looked around as if seeing his house for the first time. Not the grand parts, but the useful parts. The chair by the window, the steady light, the clean glass of water. He reached for Amara's hand. "You saw me when I felt invisible," he said quietly. "You saw the facts when I only felt tired. Thank you." She shook her head gently. "We all saw parts," she said. "The notes put the parts together, and your team moved quickly when it mattered." He nodded, accepting a truth that had room for everyone. That afternoon, the nurse reviewed the home plan with the staff. Amara stood beside her and wrote clear steps on a large, simple sheet. Take temperature at set times. Encourage small sips of water throughout the day. Use the breathing tool a few times each hour while awake. Offer light food. Keep the room calm. If confusion returns or the number goes high, use the word thresholds and call. She wrote each step like a recipe, because recipes work. Easy to see, easy to follow, hard to forget. In the following week, a nurse educator visited the mansion and ran a short workshop in the kitchen. The staff practiced washing hands for the right amount of time, taking temperatures, counting breaths, and lifting the head of a bed safely. They learned how to write notes in the same way each time, so the next person asked,